Anyway, start trying to talk about spirit, okay? They don't want me talking about it, but I'm going to. So, spirit found me one day because I was looking for it. And, you know, I haven't had a life where, I saw ghosts or anything like that beforehand, before my incident. I never had any type of extrasensory perceptions, or I never was even aware of things like that until gradually I started to realize. So, the way I found spirit, or really spirit found me, or spirit made itself known to me, is when I was with a girl who we broke up so many times that it was ridiculous. So we broke up like 100+ times. That's what it felt like, at least. In reality, it was probably like maybe 63 times, maybe, that we broke up. So anyway, one time, it was during a crisis. It was during Hurricane Sandy, New York, and she didn't have a phone on her. And we decided to hang out. She's like, I lost my phone. My phone broke, or whatever the fuck happened to her phone. So I felt bad, and I was like, well, I'll try to fix you up with something. And put a SIM card in it and whatever. So the only extra phone I had was something that my mom had. I was with my mom at the time, and I asked my mother. I was like, hey, do you have an extra phone? She's like, yeah, sure, but it's a work phone. I need it back. I was like, okay, that's fine. So I handed it to my girl, and I was like, hey, listen, you could use this phone, but it's my mom's. It's for her work. And if, you and I get into our patented fights, and we start breaking up, because at this point, I was so used to it. I was like, probably expecting it. That's why I said this statement to her. If we get into a fight, which probably pissed her off to begin with, but I was trying to compensate. All right. If we get into a fight, I'm going to need that phone back. And she's like, yeah, sure, of course. And then, like a couple hours later, we're drinking or doing drugs, because that's what we used to do back then. Or, I don't know what we were doing that night, but I'm sure we were into some sort of substance. And then she's wanting to break up with me, and then and then I was like, all right, well, you can go. I'm not going to keep you here, but I am going to keep that phone. I need the phone back, miss. Like, I'm not going to let you run around with the phone now. It was really only contingent if you were with me, and I told you you can only temporarily use it. And she's like, no. She's like, fuck you. I keep this shit, and you can go fuck yourself. I was like, no, that's not my property. That was the contingencies of the agreement that we made. And she's like, I don't give a shit. So I was like, I don't care. You don't give a shit. You're getting me that phone back. And she's like, you're going to have to fucking take it from me. I was like, I will take it from you. She's like, fuck you. And then we started getting physical. And I basically grabbed the phone out of her hand. And I said, nope. I told you. Don't try to fuck me. Well, I didn't tell her this, but I'm just trying to say, in general, you try to screw me like that, I may do it tenfold to you. So she left without a phone, and we were at odds, and I felt bad, and fucking all that bullshit. So then I wake up the next day, and then I felt really bad. And then I asked my mother, I was like, listen, she needs this thing. I'm going to have to drop her off to her, but I'm going to get it back to you as best as I can, I'm going to look to make sure that it gets back to you, the phone. So she's like, okay. So I wasn't going to, like we got into a bad fight because I put my hands on her. I grabbed her. I didn't hit her or anything, but I grabbed her, and I fucking grabbed the phone too. because she wanted to leave. And she was trying to screw me. But, so I packaged the phone up. And I was going to put it in a package and leave it by her door. And then, hopefully somebody gets it. So I'm packaging the phone up. I go into my car and I'm looking all over the place. And I'm like, just in a daze. At this point, I was like, looking all around. Like, a hurricane came through. It was an emergency situation. And we didn't have power, too. Like, for fucking ever. And the power company, I remember this, the power company was fixing the lines and all that around my neighborhood, and I can see them, all the lights are going off. It's snowing in the middle of the day. Like, it was just ridiculous. We were supposed to get another storm right after the one we just had, and it was one of the weirdest snowstorms ever, but I digress. Because it was a thunder snow. I very rarely go into those or run into them. So I'm sitting there in my car watching all this and just in a daze. And I remember getting ready to go to her house to drop the phone off, and I put my iPod on. And I always have it on shuffle. I had a bunch of music on my phone. And I normally don't just go to an album or anything like that. I just go to all my music and I hit shuffle. So I hit shuffle. I'm staring out my window. And the first song that came on was Phone Went West by, I forget their name. It's like Morning something. I think it's Morning Glory or something like that. I have to look them up again. But it doesn't matter who they were. The whole point was that the song came on, and that is what woke me up to coincidences. That I was like, this is too much of a coincidence. And I started to realize that I was being watched, or that something was with me and it's able to influence my environment. Yeah, that's what I started to feel. That's the day I woke up. That there is something, I don't know what you want to call it, spirit, God, guides, ghosts, I don't care. Something messed with me at that moment. Because not only did this song mention the phone, and that the phone was headed somewhere, but the song itself, oh man, makes me emotional thinking about it. But the song itself also was reminiscent of our relationship with me and the girl, and so I was a bawling mess at that point. Like, my emotions went out the fucking door. My ability to handle my emotions went out the door, and I was just an emotional wreck. Driving on the way to her house, listening to this song, talking about how, desperate people can be when they love each other. Stuff like that. So, I woke up at that point. That's the point that I was like, whoa. And that was one of the craziest days I ever had. But that's not really the day that I was talking about. That's the day I started to see. So that's my point in this story, is that that's when my mind started to change. I started to see things differently, and I started to have a different train of thought. And I started to have different, beliefs come in, and ideas. That if this is this way, then this must be that way, And I started to formulate my own opinions about what I felt was going on. And it was nothing short of either God or a ghost or of the like. Something was messing with me. So, you fast forward in my life, and I end up camping in Pennsylvania. And at this point, I'm like a conspiracy theorist getting into spirituality. Okay? I didn't start with spirituality. I started with conspiracy theories. So, my investigations, my personal investigations or my personal research started to lead me into psychic development. And then because of that, I was camping and studying, you know, different training courses that tried to teach you how to open up certain things that, help develop your psychic abilities. And that night was ridiculous. I didn't camp like I do now. It was like one of the first times I camped in a while. Like, I used to live in the city. I used to live in Philadelphia. I regret that, though. Philly needs to really revamp itself. Like, tremendously. Like, 100%. They need to change 100% of what they're doing. Like, I think a lot of us do. But anyway, my point is that I lived in the city of Philadelphia, and I was used to, the hustle and bustle and the sirens and cars and the people and the planes and the helicopters, and like I was used to noise. Like, I was used to sleeping with noise. I was used to sleeping with people walking outside of the apartment and shit like that, and being loud, and neighbors and all that stuff. So when I camped that night, my brain was like compensating for all of that stuff. Like, it was so, I basically conditioned my brain to adapt to the city life. And as I'm in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, central, northern Pennsylvania, my brain's going nuts. Like, it's like horns and sirens are going off in my head. Like, I was noticing my mind, obviously. And I couldn't get it to relax. I couldn't sleep that night. I remember trying to sleep. And then I remember being scared too. Like, every horror movie came back to haunt me. Like, not only the city come back to haunt me in the wild, in the campsite, alone in the dark, but also the scary movies. And I pictured every, like, horror character just tapping on my glass on my car, like, hey, I'm gonna get you, stuff like that. That's how it felt. And I was noticing how much my mind was affected by all this. So I tried to calm myself down, right? But I still couldn't sleep. And this was like 3 in the morning. 3 in the morning, can't sleep, closing my eyes, brain's going nuts. And then, now this is 100% the truth. For me, my truth. Mine's going crazy, can't sleep. I'm in my car, okay? In my Honda. And I feel this blanket of energy, is the only way I can describe it. An invisible force laid itself upon me, or it basically covered me, and I could feel it. I didn't know what it was. I'd never had an experience like that before, but I knew something was in my car with me. My heart rate skyrocketed. I went from trying to sleep, tired, and a little, having a noisy mind, and then went to fight or flight, and froze. Adrenaline. What the fuck? I'm like thinking in my head, what is this? What is going on? And I swear to you, as soon as I felt it, I could also feel every negative emotion, every residual negative emotion that I had in my body was removed. Okay? I remember hearing it. I remember hearing the energy, if that makes sense. It was like, it was seconds that this encounter happened. And within seconds, my feelings and my state of being were completely relieved of all negative emotions, all negative energies, all residual things like anxiety, depression, fear. Everything was taken, and I was relieved of it. And I felt a relief and a state of being that I've never felt before. Like, I realized at that moment too, because I never had the contrast. I never felt the contrast of how you could feel when you release or are released of anxiety, depression, and what have you. Anything weighing on the chest, anything hurting your body, it was taken from me. And I felt free and at ease and lighthearted and completely at peace, tranquility, serenity, what have you. It was ridiculous. So I started crying. I'm a big softie sometimes. I could cry. Yeah, I hope you're crying, because crying actually is good for the soul. I cried because it was amazing, because I felt incredible. I stumbled out of my car and I was a bawling mess. I was like just thanking them, and I was grateful, and I needed them to know how much, or who or whatever did this, how much that helped me and how great it felt too. It felt amazing, the energy. And I remember saying, I was saying, thank you. I'm so grateful. And I was like, I guess I called him Spirit at the time, but I was like, I'll just call him Spirit now. I said, Spirit, you don't understand. That was better than sex. And it was, because I felt this type of release, and I felt a surge of new positive energy fill my body. And I was like, that was better than sex. I want you to know that. And when I said that, I don't think they liked it. I felt like they felt that I disrespected them, because they're not 20 yards away in the darkness of the woods. Do I hear a disembodied voice scream at me? It went, ooh. That's what it sounded like. Literally. Probably even louder than that. And it immediately brought all of my fear back. It was ridiculous. And I was like, I got such a surge of fear on that I was like, I'm going to get back in my car now. I don't think I can handle much more of this. Getting fucking pushed and pulled different directions now. So that was my first encounter with a spiritual force, or a force of some sorts. To me, everything is God in disguise. God is energy, and energy can be manipulated into different things. And I feel that all of this, including me and even this phone, and you and your mother too, and your dad, and everyone that you know, are a part of the same force. And I also feel that there are intelligent, multi-dimensional, multifaceted beings that don't have bodies. That is another thing too that I was realizing last night. Some things that I want to say. That we're playing the role of the human, but we come from different spaces and time. We come from different realms. Like, where were you before you were born? Do you even remember? Do you even know where you're going to go when you die? I doubt it. I fucking doubt it. Like, I feel like there's a whole facet of things that could happen when we die. But I guess my point is that everything's God in disguise. Or it's this force in disguise. And we are playing a certain role. And ultimately what I'm trying to say is the more that you align with the divine, or the holiness of this place, or the majesty of it, the more that you appreciate it, the more that you study it and become fascinated, and your curiosity is sparked, and the more that you try to better yourself, and the more that you try to enlighten yourself, Spirit or God is going to recognize that. They're going to acknowledge that, and they have things that are pretty much set for anybody who wishes to align that way. They have different paths, or they also have different blessings. They have different energies to offer, like even in meditation. Like, if you're not doing good things in your life, then you're not going to see these things. Or if you're distracting yourself with temporary pleasures, temporary comforts, and false dopamine types of habits, then you're not probably going to see it, because that becomes your God. Because your focus, wherever you put your focus, is normally what happens to your life. This is what becomes you. So that's the point I wanted to make. The more that you align with what you feel is divine, or what you learn to be, what is a part of the holiness and the divinity of reality, then that reflects back into your life. Trust me, I am living proof of that, because that is a part of my story. And that's a part of my experience, whether you want to agree with me or not. Whether you think that I'm righteous or misguided, or I don't care what you think or what your opinion is. It really doesn't matter to me, because you're not going to change what happened to me. Does that make sense? Like, your doubt doesn't trump my experience. Okay? It's that simple. So anyway, these are part of the things I wanted to tell. Either the younger generations or any generation, it doesn't matter. Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself. You know, the only time that you should doubt yourself is if you're bringing harm to people. Okay? And that's when we should fucking intervene. And that's when we should say, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't say this, or you shouldn't act this way. You know? Because there are laws here, too. You don't want to infringe upon someone's free will. Like, you don't want to be a stumbling block. You don't want to block them from doing some of the things that they pursue to do, unless they're committing a crime. Now, what a crime is defined by many ways by our U.S. government and our justice system, and those of the like, maritime law, and, Magna Carta, Constitution, statutes, and ordinances, and mandates, and all that shit. Like, there's so many people that can define a law and try to enact it and enforce it, but what truly is righteous and what truly is fabricated for other means, So committing a crime, to me, and I think most of us agree, that it's causing harm to people or property, or also I would add too, if you're causing harm to the land, that's not good. Or if you're causing harm to animals for your own personal interests, for your own amusement, then that's not good either. And even on a mass level where we're, springing chickens left and right and eating cows left and right, like, to me, that is a fine line. It has to be done ethically. The way that we do it is not ethical. But anyway, I digress. Crimes can be defined in certain manners, but what is truly a part of what you shouldn't do is when you bring harm to either yourself, other people, or property, or the flora and the fauna. Because this land, we didn't create this land. We didn't land here and go, oh man, this place is beautiful, let's all live here. No, it was quite actually created, and in the process of millions of years. It's amazing. I've had discussions about this before, that the fact that anything exists is a fucking miracle. And the fact that you are you and I am I, and I'm able to be this conscious, breathing, living entity is a fucking miracle when you think about it. People think that we just came out of the primordial ooze, and that was and over the course of time that we developed into this. But no, there is an intelligent design to everything. Those people that tell you that there isn't a God or an intelligent design or an intelligent designer or creator, they're bullshitting you. Like this tree right here, this was designed in I don't want to say a laboratory, but it was designed somewhere, and then now it is being utilized in a planetary fashion. There is so much that went into this place. So when you bring harm to this land, don't think that you're not being watched, that it's not being taken into account, and that behavioral pattern doesn't align with the divine and how this place was designed. So anyway, I'm not trying to chastise, I'm just honestly trying to go through what I feel is true and what isn't, to me, and hopefully bestow that to anyone who wishes to listen. So, oh yeah, God's in the air too, because the air is oxygen. That's a particle. If it's a particle, it's probably God. And it's all meant to work in a whole unified, sustainable system. And it's beautiful, because it's a beautiful experience. So, again, the more that you align with the divine, those are the times that the divine will take notice of it. Because you're being watched here. You're not alone. Like, even if we don't catch you doing these crimes, or if we don't catch you doing good in the world, God sees it. 100%. And I just wanted to wish you guys much love, good luck, God bless, and have a good night, or a good evening, or afternoon. I love you.